You're remaining invisible and overlooked while certain people command attention, opportunities, and resources through rare valuable skills that make them impossible to ignore. Recognizing that being impossible to ignore is not about personality, charisma, or networking, but about systematically developing skills so valuable, rare, and visible that gatekeepers, employers, clients, and influencers cannot afford to overlook you. Knowing that impossible to ignore skills are specific combinations of deep expertise, demonstrated results, and strategic visibility that create magnetic pull, making opportunities come to you rather than requiring you to chase them. Understanding that most people remain ignorable because they develop common, mediocre, or invisible skills that create no compelling reason for anyone to pay attention, making strategic skill development essential for breaking through noise and losing years remaining stuck, invisible, and overlooked because your skills are either too common, too shallow, or too hidden for anyone to notice, making impossible to ignore skill building critical for extraordinary career success. This ignorable skill portfolio is systematically ensuring your invisibility by developing same common skills as everyone else, creating no differentiation or competitive advantage, stopping skill development at basic competence, never reaching excellence that commands attention, keeping your capabilities hidden through failing to demonstrate or communicate your value, scattering effort across too many skills, preventing deep expertise in any area that would make you remarkable, and ensuring that decades pass as invisible, overlooked commodity rather than impossible to ignore expert because you never strategically built skill portfolio designed specifically to command attention, making strategic skill architecture essential. Building impossible to ignore skills is not about becoming best in world at single skill, but about strategic combination of complementary capabilities, creating rare valuable intersection. Not about generic skills everyone possesses, but about deliberate development of scarce high-value capabilities that markets desperately need. And not just skill development, but strategic demonstration, making capabilities visible and credible. This audiobook teaches how to build skills that make you impossible to ignore through 10 strategic frameworks, including identifying high-value scarce skills worth developing, combining complementary skills, creating rare intersections, developing deep expertise through deliberate practice, building public portfolio, demonstrating capabilities, creating remarkable results, proving value, developing rare technical creative combinations, mastering strategic communication, amplifying impact, building skills in emerging high-growth domains, creating proprietary frameworks and methodologies, and integrating all elements into impossible to ignore skill architecture, making you magnetic to opportunities. Stop remaining invisible and start building impossible to ignore skills. Stop common shallow capabilities and start rare valuable expertise. Master 10 frameworks systematically, develop strategically, and become impossible to ignore through unwavering commitment, starting now. Chapter 1. Framework 1. Identify high-value scarce skills worth developing. Chapter 1 identifies high-value scarce skills worth developing rather than wasting precious time and effort on common low-value capabilities that millions already possess. The skill value assessment shows that skills vary enormously in market value and scarcity, making strategic selection absolutely essential for efficient capability development. That high-value scarce skills create disproportionate career returns through premium compensation opportunities and competitive advantages, while common skills create commodity competition, where you compete with millions offering identical capabilities that becoming impossible to ignore requires deliberately developing capabilities that markets desperately need and will pay premium for, but that very few people actually possess, creating powerful supply-demand imbalance in your favor. That most people accidentally develop whatever skills their current job requires or whatever seems interesting without strategic analysis of market value or competitive supply, ensuring they build common low-value portfolios, and understanding that skill selection is foundational strategic decision determining return on all subsequent development effort, making careful analysis of value and scarcity essential first step before investing years developing any capability. Select high-value scarce skills strategically. Research demand and scarcity. Choose wisely or develop irrelevant capabilities. The value scarcity matrix provides systematic framework for evaluating potential skills by mapping them on 2 critical dimensions, revealing which capabilities deserve development investment. The vertical axis represents market value, measuring how much employers, clients, and markets actively need and will pay for the skill. The horizontal axis represents scarcity, measuring how many people currently possess the capability. This creates 4 quadrants with dramatically different strategic implications. High value, high scarcity skills in upper right quadrant create premium opportunity through strong demand and limited supply, making these ideal development targets. High value, low scarcity skills in upper left quadrant create commodity competition, where strong demand attracts many developers, creating oversupply and driving down returns, making these poor targets despite high value. Low value, high scarcity skills in lower right quadrant create irrelevant expertise that few possess because markets do not care, making scarcity meaningless without demand. Low value, low scarcity skills in lower left quadrant create complete waste, representing neither valuable nor scarce capabilities. Strategic skill development focuses exclusively on high value, high scarcity quadrant, identifying capabilities that markets desperately need but few can provide. The market demand research identifies what skills employers, clients, and markets actively seek, demonstrating willingness to pay premium prices for capabilities. Demand research examines job postings, identifying frequently requested skills with high compensation. Industry trend reports revealing growing capability needs, client or customer pain points, showing unmet needs requiring specific expertise, and competitive analysis revealing what capabilities enable others to command premium prices. Strong demand shows through premium compensation, frequent requests, growing trend, and demonstrated willingness to pay. Weak demand shows through low compensation, rare requests, declining trend, or unwillingness to pay despite claims of importance. Focus development on skills with demonstrated strong market demand, not just interesting capabilities or skills you think should be valuable, but that markets actually ignore. The scarcity assessment evaluates competitive supply by determining how many people currently possess target skills, revealing whether developing them creates differentiation or joins crowded field. Scarcity research examines competitor profiles on LinkedIn or professional networks, counting how many list target skill, certification, or credential volume, showing how many pursue formal training in capability. Bootcamp and course enrollment indicating development popularity, and direct observation of how easily organizations fill roles requiring skill, revealing supply levels. Scarce skills show through few competitors listing them, low certification volume, minimal training programs, and extended hiring timelines. Common skills show through ubiquitous competitor listings, high certification volume, numerous training programs, and quick hiring timelines. Combine demand and scarcity analysis, selecting only skills showing both strong demand and genuine scarcity, creating powerful market positioning. The future focus projection considers not just current value and scarcity, but trajectory, asking whether skill will become more or less valuable and scarce over coming years. Some currently valuable scarce skills face automation or commoditization, threatening future value. Other emerging skills show growing demand and continued scarcity, creating increasing opportunity. Project skill trajectory, examining technology trends that might automate or enhance capability. Industry evolution affecting demand levels. Educational system response, showing whether scarcity will persist or erode through training proliferation, and fundamental drivers determining whether demand trends are temporary or sustainable. Prioritize skills with positive trajectory, showing increasing value and sustained or growing scarcity over multi-year horizon. The personal fit assessment ensures selected skills align with genuine interests and aptitudes, because developing deep expertise requires sustained effort over years, making passion and natural ability important considerations. However, fit analysis comes after value and scarcity analysis, not before, because developing capabilities you love that markets ignore creates poverty, not fulfillment. Find intersection between high-value scarce skills and personal interests, creating sustainable motivated development of genuinely valuable capabilities. The implementation requires creating value scarcity matrix, mapping potential skill targets on both dimensions, conducting systematic market demand research through job postings, industry reports, and client needs analysis, assessing competitive scarcity through competitor analysis, certification data, and hiring timeline observation. Projecting future trajectory, considering automation, industry evolution, and educational supply changes. Ensuring reasonable personal fit, enabling sustained development, effort, and treating strategic skill selection as foundation for impossible to ignore development where accidentally developing common low-value skills guaranteed remaining ignorable commodity competing with millions offering identical capabilities. Select high-value scarce skills strategically. Research demand and scarcity. Choose wisely or develop irrelevant capabilities. You understand now that skills vary enormously in value and scarcity, that high value, high scarcity creates premium opportunity, that demand research reveals what markets actually pay for, that scarcity assessment shows competitive supply, and that Chapter 1 provides selection framework making strategic capability choice possible where random development created common low-value portfolios. Chapter 2. Framework 2 combine complementary skills creating rare intersections. Chapter 2 combines complementary skills creating rare valuable intersections that make you impossible to ignore through unique capability combinations. The skill combination power shows that while individual skills face intense competition from millions of practitioners creating commodity markets where differentiation proves difficult and compensation remains modest, specific strategic combinations of complementary skills create rare intersections where very few people possess the complete package, making you dramatically more valuable and impossible to ignore. That impossible to ignore status often comes from unique skill combinations rather than world-class excellence in single capability. Because combination creates differentiation that single skill depth cannot match, that complementary skills multiply value beyond simple addition, creating synergistic capabilities worth far more than sum of parts, that most people develop skills in isolation within single domain, never combining capabilities from different fields, missing the extraordinary value that strategic intersections create, and understanding that combination strategy is essential framework for becoming impossible to ignore because it creates rare valuable positioning achievable in realistic timeframes while becoming world best at single skill requires decades and genetic gifts. Combine complementary skills creating rare intersections. Develop strategic combinations. Integrate skills or compete in crowded single skill markets. The intersection identification finds where 2 or 3 complementary skills from different domains combine, creating rare capability that markets desperately need but rarely find. Powerful intersections typically combine skills from different categories, creating unique value propositions. Technical expertise plus business acumen creates rare capability to both build solutions and understand commercial viability, making you invaluable bridge between engineering and business. Creative ability plus analytical thinking enables both innovative ideation and rigorous evaluation, making you solve problems that purely creative or purely analytical thinkers cannot. Domain expertise plus communication skills creates ability to both deeply understand field and explain it compellingly to outsiders, making you perfect translator. Data science plus visual design creates ability to both analyze information and present insights beautifully. Software development plus user experience design enables both building functionality and ensuring usability. Each intersection combines capabilities that individually face intense competition, but together create rare valuable combination. The T-shaped expertise model provides framework for skill combination through developing deep vertical expertise in primary domain, while building broad horizontal competence across complementary areas, creating distinctive T-shaped profile. The vertical bar represents deep expertise in core capability, developed through years of deliberate practice reaching advanced or expert level, making you genuinely excellent at primary skill. The horizontal bar represents broad competence across multiple related skills, developed to intermediate level, providing enough capability to understand, integrate, and apply complementary skills effectively without achieving deep expertise. T-shaped professional might have deep software engineering expertise as vertical with horizontal competence in product management, user experience design, and business strategy. This combination creates far more value than pure specialist with only vertical depth or generalist with only horizontal breadth, because T-shape enables both excellent execution in core domain and effective integration of complementary perspectives. Most professionals develop either vertical I-shape through pure specialization, or horizontal dash-shape through shallow generalization, missing the powerful combination that T-shape provides. The strategic secondary skill selection identifies which complementary capabilities create most valuable combinations with your primary expertise by analyzing what skills would multiply effectiveness of core capability. Effective secondary skills should be genuinely complementary, creating multiplicative rather than merely additive value. High-value capabilities markets actively seek not just interesting additions, achievable through focused development reaching competence without requiring decades, and create rare intersection when combined with primary skill. For technical professional, strategic secondary might be business strategy or communication. For creative professional, analytical thinking or project management. For domain expert, writing or teaching ability. Each secondary skill should make primary capability dramatically more valuable through enabling application delivery or communication that pure specialist cannot achieve. The combination sequencing recognizes that skill combination requires strategic ordering with primary expertise developed first to advanced level before adding secondary skills, ensuring solid foundation. Attempting to develop multiple skills simultaneously from beginner level creates shallow mediocrity in everything, preventing the deep expertise that makes combinations valuable. Instead, develop primary skill to advanced level through focused effort over years, establishing genuine expertise. Then add first strategic secondary to intermediate competence, creating initial valuable combination. Then add additional secondaries progressively, building increasingly rare intersection. Sequential development ensures each addition enhances rather than dilutes overall capability. The market positioning communication makes your unique combination visible and compelling to opportunities through clearly articulating the intersection you occupy and value it creates. Many people accidentally develop skill combinations through varied experiences but fail to recognize or communicate the strategic value, making them miss opportunities that combination should create. Winners explicitly position themselves as unique intersections through clear value propositions, like technical expert, who understands business enabling practical innovation, or creative thinker with analytical rigor enabling beautiful solutions that actually work. This positioning makes the rare combination obvious to gatekeepers seeking precisely that mix. The continuous combination expansion recognizes that valuable intersections evolve as markets and technologies change, requiring ongoing strategic addition of new complementary capabilities, maintaining rare valuable positioning. Initial combination that created scarcity advantage may become common as others copy the intersection, requiring adding new elements, maintaining differentiation. Winners continuously evaluate what additional complementary skills would create next valuable intersection, adding capabilities strategically over career. The implementation requires identifying what complementary skill combinations create rare valuable intersections in your target domain, developing primary expertise to advanced level before adding secondary skills, selecting strategic secondary capabilities that multiply effectiveness of core skill, sequencing skill development to ensure deep primary expertise, plus broad secondary competence, communicating your unique combination clearly through positioning and branding, continuously adding new complementary capabilities as markets evolve, and treating skill combination as creating rare intersections where single skills remain common, making you impossible to ignore through unique valuable capability mix that very few possess. Combine complementary skills, creating rare intersections. Develop strategic combinations. Integrate skills or compete in crowded single-skill markets. You understand now that combinations create scarcity impossible through single skills, that T-shaped expertise combines depth and breadth, that strategic secondaries multiply primary value, that sequential development ensures quality, and that Chapter 2 provides combination framework, making rare valuable intersections possible where single skill development faced commodity competition. Chapter 3. Framework 3. Develop deep expertise through deliberate practice. Chapter 3 develops deep expertise through deliberate practice, reaching excellence level that commands attention and makes you impossible to ignore. The expertise depth shows that basic competence creates no differentiation, because millions possess adequate skills in any domain, making basic capability completely ignorable commodity. That intermediate competence begins creating some differentiation, but remains insufficient for impossible to ignore status, because many thousands achieve this level. That deep expertise reaching advanced or expert level makes you genuinely remarkable through mastery that very few achieve, creating automatic attention and respect. That deliberate practice systematically expands capabilities through focused effortful engagement at edge of current ability with immediate feedback and conscious adjustment, enabling progression from novice through competent to expert over years. That natural practice performing comfortable familiar tasks maintains current level without creating growth, while deliberate practice constantly pushes boundaries, forcing adaptation and understanding that depth creates essential differentiation, making you impossible to ignore where breadth without depth creates diluted mediocrity that remains easily overlooked. Develop deep expertise through deliberate practice. Practice at capability edge daily. build mastery, or remain basically competent. The 100-hour principle from Anders Ericsson's research suggests that achieving expert-level performance in complex domains requires approximately 10,000 hours of deliberate practice accumulated over a decade or more of sustained focused development. This principle reveals both encouraging and sobering realities about expertise development. Encouraging because expertise is achievable through systematic practice, rather than requiring innate genius, making mastery accessible to anyone willing to invest sustained effort. Sobering because expertise requires years of dedicated practice, not weeks or months, meaning instant expertise is impossible and shortcuts do not exist. Most people abandon skill development long before accumulating necessary practice hours, stopping at basic or intermediate competence that feels good enough but never reaches expertise that makes them impossible to ignore. Winners commit to multi-year development, knowing that depth requires sustained investment but creates extraordinary returns through rare valuable capability. The deliberate practice elements distinguish practice that creates growth from mere repetition that maintains current level. Deliberate practice requires operating at edge of current ability, tackling challenges slightly beyond comfortable competence, forcing you to struggle, adapt, and grow rather than mindlessly repeating mastered tasks. It demands intense focus, concentration, maintaining full attention on practice activity without multitasking or distraction, because skill development requires cognitive engagement that automatic execution prevents. It provides immediate specific feedback, showing gaps between current performance and optimal technique, enabling targeted adjustment toward excellence rather than practicing errors repeatedly. It involves conscious adjustment based on feedback, deliberately modifying technique, approach, or strategy, rather than simply trying harder using same ineffective methods. It maintains this intensive focused edge of ability practice for extended sessions, typically 1 to 4 hours, creating sufficient stimulus for adaptation without exceeding cognitive capacity. Each element is essential, with missing any component preventing deliberate practice from creating growth. The progressive difficulty increases challenge systematically as current level becomes comfortable, forcing continuous adaptation that drives expertise development. Practicing at comfortable current level forever maintains, but does not expand capabilities, because adaptation only occurs when demands exceed current capacity, forcing nervous system to develop new capabilities meeting challenge. Progressive difficulty means constantly raising bar through attempting faster execution, pursuing higher quality standards, removing supporting aids or training wheels, tackling more complex problems, or competing against stronger opponents. Each difficulty increase creates temporary struggle, followed by adaptation that becomes new comfortable baseline, requiring next difficulty increase. This continuous progression over years through ever-increasing challenges drives novice through intermediate to expert level. The immediate feedback integration enables course correction toward optimal technique through revealing gaps between current execution and expert performance. Feedback sources include expert coaches or mentors providing assessment and guidance, objective performance metrics showing measurable results, video recording revealing technical details invisible during performance, peer comparison showing relative standing, and self-assessment against known optimal technique. Effective feedback is immediate rather than delayed, specific rather than generic, and actionable, identifying concrete adjustments rather than vague encouragement. Winners actively seek rather than avoid feedback because they prioritize improvement over protecting ego from uncomfortable truths about current limitations. The focused concentration requirement recognizes that skill development requires full cognitive engagement during practice, making distracted or automatic practice ineffective for capability expansion. Watching television while practicing prevents the focused attention that enables learning. Practicing while fatigued beyond cognitive capacity prevents quality engagement. Multitasking across multiple activities prevents sufficient attention to any single skill. Deep practice requires eliminating distractions, maintaining full concentration, and stopping when attention falters rather than continuing mindless repetition. The consistency over intensity principle shows that daily moderate deliberate practice creates far more expertise growth than sporadic intense practice through enabling biological adaptation and preventing injury or burnout. Daily 1-hour deliberate practice accumulates 7 hours weekly and over 360 hours annually, creating steady capability expansion. Sporadic practice attempting 10 hours one day then nothing for weeks prevents adaptation and creates injury risk. Consistency enables compound growth where each session builds on previous, creating accelerating returns over years. The implementation requires scheduling daily deliberate practice sessions of 1 to 4 hours, protecting this time as non-negotiable. Practicing at edge of current ability through progressively increasing difficulty. Seeking and integrating immediate specific feedback, enabling course correction. Maintaining intense focused concentration, eliminating all distractions during practice. Tracking accumulated practice hours toward expertise targets, and treating deep expertise development through sustained deliberate practice as creating impossible to ignore mastery where shallow dabbling or comfortable repetition remained at basic competence that millions possess, making you completely ignorable. Develop deep expertise through deliberate practice. Practice at capability edge daily. Build mastery or remain basically competent. You understand now that expertise requires sustained practice over years, that deliberate practice differs from mere repetition, that practicing at edge forces growth, that immediate feedback enables correction, and that Chapter 3 provides expertise development framework, making mastery possible where comfortable practice maintained mediocrity. Chapter 4. Framework 4. Build public portfolio demonstrating capabilities. Chapter 4 builds public portfolio demonstrating capabilities, making your skills visible, credible, and impossible to ignore. The visibility requirement shows that hidden skills create zero opportunities regardless of actual quality, because gatekeepers, employers, and clients cannot hire, promote, or pay for capabilities they do not know exist. That public portfolio provides tangible proof of capabilities that claims and credentials alone cannot establish, because anyone can claim expertise, but portfolio demonstrates actual ability through real work. That portfolio work attracts opportunities proactively through demonstrating rather than merely describing abilities, creating magnetic pull, where opportunities come to you rather than requiring endless applications and pitches. That most talented people remain invisible and overlooked because they never make capabilities public, keeping excellent work hidden behind corporate walls or personal files where no one discovers it. And understanding that strategic visibility through public portfolio is absolutely essential for becoming impossible to ignore, because markets cannot value or seek what they cannot see, making demonstration fundamental to recognition, opportunity, and compensation. Demonstrate capabilities through public portfolio. Show, don't just tell. Build visible proof or remain unknown despite skills. The portfolio platforms vary by field and capability type, requiring strategic selection of channels that reach target audiences and showcase work effectively. Personal website provides complete control and professional presence, displaying portfolio work, case studies, credentials, and contact information in branded environment you fully control. GitHub or similar code repositories demonstrate software development capabilities through actual working code that technical evaluators can review, assess, and even use, revealing coding ability far more effectively than resume claims. Published writing, including blog posts, articles, or books, shows expertise, depth, communication ability, and thought leadership, establishing authority in domain. Speaking engagements at conferences, events, or workshops prove knowledge while demonstrating presentation skills and building visibility with target audiences. YouTube or video content showcases teaching ability, personality, and subject matter expertise through dynamic medium. Design portfolios on Behance or Drupal display creative work for visual assessment. Each platform serves different purposes and audiences, requiring strategic selection based on capabilities and target markets. The quality over quantity principle establishes that portfolio should showcase only your absolute best work, creating strong positive impression rather than diluting impact through including mediocre volume. 10 exceptional portfolio pieces create far more positive impact than 50 mediocre examples, because evaluators judge you by worst work, included not by best, making every portfolio piece either helping or hurting overall impression. Common mistake is including everything you have created rather than curating only genuinely excellent work that represents capabilities you want recognized. Better to have small portfolio of truly impressive work than large portfolio of mixed quality, where mediocre pieces undermine excellent ones. Winners are ruthlessly selective about portfolio inclusion, removing anything that does not meet high quality bar, even if that leaves relatively few pieces, because those few create powerful impression that many mediocre pieces cannot. The case study format provides structured way to showcase work demonstrating not just final output, but also problem-solving process, results achieved, and value created. Effective case studies include clear problem or challenge description, establishing context and stakes, detailed approach explanation showing methodology and reasoning, concrete results documentation, proving impact through metrics or outcomes. Visual presentation making case accessible and engaging, and client or stakeholder testimonials validating claims. Case studies prove capability more convincingly than standalone work samples because they show complete problem-solving cycle from challenge through solution to measurable results. The continuous updating maintains portfolio relevance through regularly adding new best work, removing outdated pieces, and ensuring portfolio represents current capabilities. Stale portfolio with old work suggests you are no longer active or developing, while fresh portfolio with recent work demonstrates ongoing productivity and growth. Establish habit of adding new portfolio pieces quarterly or whenever completing work worthy of showcase, keeping portfolio current and growing. The strategic promotion makes portfolio visible to target audiences rather than creating excellent showcase that no one sees. Portfolio promotion includes linking to portfolio in email signatures, LinkedIn profiles, and professional BIOS. Sharing new portfolio additions on social media and professional networks. Submitting portfolio work to galleries, directories, or showcases in your field. Mentioning portfolio in conversations, pitches, and applications. And actively driving traffic through content marketing or networking. Portfolio without promotion remains invisible regardless of quality. The permission and confidentiality management navigates constraints around showcasing proprietary or confidential work through obtaining necessary permissions, creating similar non-confidential examples demonstrating capability without violating agreements, describing projects generally without revealing confidential details, or building personal projects specifically for portfolio when work projects cannot be shared. Many talented people never build portfolio because they believe all their work is confidential, but winners find ways to demonstrate capabilities publicly, whether through obtaining permission, creating portfolio projects, or describing work appropriately. The testimonial integration adds credibility through including authentic testimonials from clients, colleagues, or users validating your work and impact. Testimonials provide third-party verification that claims alone cannot match, making portfolio more persuasive. Actively request testimonials after successful projects, capturing specific praise and results while experiences are fresh. The implementation requires selecting appropriate portfolio platforms, reaching target audiences effectively, creating exceptional showcase work representing capabilities you want recognized, developing detailed case studies documenting problem, approach, and results, maintaining quality over quantity, including only truly excellent work, updating portfolio regularly, adding new work and removing outdated pieces, promoting portfolio actively to ensure visibility with target audiences, navigating confidentiality through permissions, alternative examples, or portfolio projects, integrating authentic testimonials, providing third-party validation, and treating public portfolio as making capabilities visible and credible, where hidden work remained unknown and unproven, making you ignorable regardless of actual skill level. Demonstrate capabilities through public portfolio. Show, don't just tell. Build visible proof or remain unknown despite skills. You understand now that hidden skills create no opportunities, that portfolio provides tangible proof, that quality beats quantity, that case studies demonstrate complete capability, and that Chapter 4 provides visibility framework, making capabilities known where hidden work remained undiscovered. Chapter 5. Framework 5. Create remarkable results that prove value. Chapter 5 creates remarkable results that prove value through documented extraordinary achievements, making you impossible to ignore. The results focus shows that capabilities and credentials matter far less than actual results produced, making outcome demonstration critical for establishing credibility and attracting opportunities. That remarkable results defined as achievements significantly exceeding normal standards create immediate attention and respect that skill claims alone cannot generate, because results provide objective proof separating genuine performers from pretenders. That documented achievements through metrics, case studies, and testimonials provide concrete evidence of value created, making your impact undeniable rather than relying on subjective self-assessment. That most people focus on inputs like hours worked or activities completed rather than outcomes achieved, missing that markets pay for results, not effort, making results orientation essential. And understanding that results-based reputation makes you impossible to ignore because extraordinary documented achievements create magnetic credibility that bypasses normal gatekeeping and creates demand for your capabilities. Produce remarkable results proving value. Document achievements comprehensively. Show outcomes or make unsubstantiated claims. The remarkable definition requires results that significantly exceed normal or expected standards, creating genuine well response from knowledgeable observers, rather than merely adequate or good performance that meets expectations but creates no special notice. Remarkable revenue growth means not just positive growth, but exceptional growth dramatically outpacing industry averages or previous records. Remarkable cost reduction means not just minor savings, but transformational efficiency gains changing economics fundamentally. Remarkable customer satisfaction means not just satisfied customers, but fanatical advocates creating organic growth through referrals. Remarkable speed means not just timely completion, but extraordinary acceleration, compressing normal timelines dramatically. Remarkable quality means not just acceptable output, but exceptional excellence that sets new standards. The remarkable threshold varies by context, but consistently means performance in top few percent, creating genuine surprise and admiration from informed observers. The metrics documentation captures results through specific quantifiable measures, proving impact objectively, rather than relying on vague qualitative claims. Effective metrics include percentage improvements showing magnitude of change, like revenue increased 47% or costs reduced 32%. Absolute numbers demonstrating scale, like generated $3 million revenue or saved $200,000. Time comparisons showing acceleration, like completed in 6 weeks rather than normal 12 weeks. Competitive benchmarks proving relative performance, like achieved top 5% customer satisfaction in industry, or before-after comparisons illustrating transformation. Specific metrics create credibility that vague claims like significantly improved or substantially increased cannot match, because numbers are verifiable and comparable. The causation demonstration proves that your actions created results rather than merely correlating with outcomes caused by other factors. Many people claim credit for results that happened around them, but not because of them, undermining credibility when examined closely. Demonstrating causation requires showing clear connection between your specific actions and documented outcomes through detailed explanation of what you did and why it produced results. Controlled comparison showing what happened with your intervention versus without. Elimination of alternative explanations for outcomes. And testimonials from others confirming your causal role. Strong causation proof makes results attribution credible, where weak connection makes claims suspicious. The before-after transformation showcases impact through clearly contrasting initial state with final state, highlighting the change you created. Before-after presentation might include photos showing physical transformation, screenshots displaying interface improvements, charts comparing performance metrics over time, or narrative descriptions contrasting original problems with current solutions. Visual before-after comparisons create immediate impact, understanding that metrics alone might not convey, making transformation tangible and compelling. The stakeholder testimonials provide third-party validation of results through authentic quotes from clients, colleagues, or users confirming outcomes and attributing them to your work. Testimonials should be specific, mentioning particular results achieved and how your contributions created them. Attributed to named credible sources, rather than anonymous quotes that could be fabricated, and permission-based with explicit approval to use testimonial publicly. Generic praise like "great to work with" creates less value than specific result validation, like "our analysis identified 12 million in cost savings we immediately implemented." The results portfolio compilation organizes all documented achievements into accessible showcase, enabling quick demonstration of track record. Results portfolio might be integrated into broader portfolio, presented as dedicated case studies section, or maintained as separate achievement documentation. Organization should enable finding relevant results quickly when opportunities require demonstrating specific capabilities or experiences. The ongoing results focus maintains discipline of pursuing and documenting remarkable outcomes, making results orientation habit rather than occasional practice. This requires selecting projects and approaches with remarkable results potential rather than just completing assigned work adequately, measuring and tracking results systematically throughout work, not just at completion. Documenting achievements immediately while details are fresh and stakeholders are available, and continuously raising bar for what constitutes remarkable, maintaining high standards as capabilities grow. The implementation requires focusing effort on producing results that significantly exceed normal standards, creating genuine remarkable achievements, not just adequate performance. Documenting results through specific quantifiable metrics, proving impact objectively. demonstrating clear causation between your actions and outcomes, creating before-after comparisons illustrating transformation, obtaining authentic stakeholder testimonials validating results and your role, compiling results into organized, accessible portfolio, and treating remarkable results as ultimate proof of value where claimed capabilities without documented achievements remained unsubstantiated, making you ignorable regardless of actual skills. Produce remarkable results proving value. Document achievements comprehensively. Show outcomes or make unsubstantiated claims. You understand now that results matter more than capabilities, that remarkable means significantly exceeding standards, that metrics provide objective proof, that causation demonstration prevents false attribution, and that Chapter 5 provides results framework making value undeniable where vague claims remained unpersuasive. Chapter 6. Framework 6. Develop rare technical creative combinations. Chapter 6 develops rare technical creative combinations that markets desperately need, but rarely find, making you impossible to ignore through bridging critical gap. The technical creative gap shows that most people develop either technical analytical left brain capabilities or creative innovative right brain capabilities, but rarely both, creating significant supply shortage at valuable intersection. That modern complex problems require both technical rigor to build feasible solutions and creative innovation to imagine novel approaches, making pure technicians or pure creatives insufficient for highest value work. That technical creative combinations solve problems that neither pure technical nor pure creative thinkers can address alone through enabling both rigorous analysis and innovative ideation. That education and career paths typically force early specialization into technical or creative tracks, preventing development of both, preventing most people from building complete capability set. And understanding that deliberately bridging technical creative gap makes you impossible to ignore, because combination remains genuinely rare while being extraordinarily valuable across industries and domains. Combine technical and creative capabilities. Bridge the gap markets need. Develop both or remain single-dimensional. The technical foundation includes analytical problem-solving ability to break complex challenges into components and solve systematically. Quantitative skills, including mathematics, statistics, or data analysis, enabling rigorous measurement and optimization. Logical thinking for evaluating arguments, identifying flaws, and constructing sound reasoning. Technological literacy, including coding, data science, or scientific methods. And systematic methodology for approaching problems with structure and repeatability. These technical capabilities enable rigorous analysis, feasibility assessment, and reliable execution, but alone often miss innovative approaches or compelling presentation that creative capabilities provide. Pure technical thinkers solve known problems efficiently, but struggle generating novel solutions or communicating insights accessibly. The creative capability includes design thinking for understanding user needs and imagining solutions addressing them. Visual communication ability to present information compellingly through graphics, layouts, or interfaces. Storytelling skill for making abstract concepts memorable and engaging through narrative. Innovative ideation, generating novel approaches rather than incremental improvements. And aesthetic sensibility for creating not just functional but beautiful solutions. These creative capabilities enable innovation, user centricity, and compelling communication, but alone often lack rigor, feasibility assessment, or reliable execution that technical capabilities provide. Pure creative thinkers imagine exciting possibilities but struggle with implementation complexity or analytical validation. The integration challenge acknowledges that technical and creative capabilities require different cognitive modes, making combination genuinely difficult, rather than simply adding both to skill portfolio. Technical thinking emphasizes logic, precision, constraints, and proven methods. Creative thinking emphasizes intuition, exploration, possibilities, and novel approaches. These modes can feel contradictory, requiring deliberate practice switching between them fluidly. Effective integration involves knowing when technical rigor versus creative exploration serves situation better, combining both in complete problem-solving cycle using creative ideation to generate possibilities, then technical analysis to evaluate feasibility, and developing comfort with ambiguity and structure, recognizing value of both rather than privileging one mode over other. The application domains where technical creative combinations create extraordinary value include product development, requiring both innovative user-centered design and technical feasibility implementation. Data science, needing both rigorous analysis and compelling visual storytelling of insights. software development benefiting from both functional coding and user experience design, scientific communication requiring both deep technical expertise and accessible explanation for general audiences, business strategy demanding both creative market innovation and analytical financial modeling, and education needing both subject matter expertise and engaging presentation. Each domain shows that pure technical or pure creative professionals create limited value, while those bridging both create disproportionate impact. The sequential development approach acknowledges that building both technical and creative capabilities simultaneously from zero creates overwhelming challenge, making strategic sequencing essential. Effective approach develops a strong foundation in either technical or creative domain, first reaching intermediate to advanced competence, establishing solid base, then its complementary capability from other domain, developing it to intermediate level, creating valuable combination, then continues alternating between deepening primary expertise and broadening complementary capability. This ensures you maintain genuine strength in primary domain while adding valuable secondary, rather than becoming mediocre at both through trying to develop simultaneously. The portfolio demonstration of technical creative combination requires showcasing work that clearly displays both capabilities, making intersection obvious to observers. Project portfolio might include technically complex implementations presented through beautiful, compelling interfaces, analytical findings communicated through innovative visual storytelling, creative designs validated through user research data, or innovative solutions proven feasible through technical prototypes. Each portfolio piece should demonstrate both technical rigor and creative innovation, making combination undeniable. The market positioning as technical creative bridge creates clear differentiation from pure technicians and pure creatives. Position yourself explicitly as someone who both builds and designs, both analyzes and communicates, both innovates and implements. This positioning makes your rare combination obvious, rather than hiding behind generic labels that fail to capture distinctive value. The implementation requires developing strong technical foundation, including analytical, quantitative, and systematic capabilities, adding creative capabilities, including design storytelling and innovative ideation, integrating both through practice, solving problems requiring technical and creative thinking, applying combination in domains where both capabilities create extraordinary value. Sequencing development strategically, building primary strength, then adding complementary, demonstrating combination through portfolio, showcasing both technical and creative excellence, positioning explicitly as technical creative bridge, and treating technical creative combination as rare valuable capability, making you impossible to ignore where single-dimensional technical or creative skills remained common. Combine technical and creative capabilities. Bridge the gap markets need. Develop both or remain single-dimensional. You understand now that most people develop either technical or creative, not both, that complex problems require both capabilities, that integration requires deliberate practice, that sequential development prevents mediocrity, and that Chapter 6 provides technical creative framework, making rare combination possible where single dimension remained common. Chapter 7. Framework 7 Masters Strategic Communication Amplifying Impact. Chapter 7 masters strategic communication, amplifying impact of all other capabilities and results, making you impossible to ignore through exceptional explanation and presentation. The communication multiplier shows that brilliant work poorly communicated gets ignored, overlooked, or misunderstood, while merely good work excellently communicated commands attention, resources, and opportunities. That communication skills multiply effectiveness and perceived value of all other capabilities through making technical expertise accessible, creative work understandable, and results compelling. That impossible to ignore status requires not just having valuable capabilities, but making that value crystal clear to audiences who control opportunities. That most talented people remain invisible because they cannot or will not communicate capabilities and achievements effectively, assuming excellent work speaks for itself when reality shows work requires excellent communication to be noticed. And understanding that communication mastery is essential multiplier for all other skills, because markets cannot value capabilities they do not understand or achievements they do not know about, making strategic communication absolutely critical for becoming impossible to ignore. Master communication, amplifying capabilities impact. Explain value compellingly. Communicate strategically, or let work go unnoticed. The communication elements span multiple modes, each amplifying impact in different contexts. Clear writing explains complex ideas simply through precise word choice, logical structure, and appropriate examples, making abstract concepts concrete and technical details accessible to non-experts. This writing ability enables creating documentation proposals, articles, or books that establish expertise and reach broad audiences. Persuasive speaking influences and engages audiences through confident delivery, compelling narratives, and audience-centered messaging, whether in presentations, pitches, or conversations. Speaking ability enables sharing expertise at conferences, convincing stakeholders, or leading teams effectively. Visual communication presents information compellingly through graphics, charts, slides, or interfaces, making data patterns, insights, or concepts immediately graspable where text or speech alone might confuse. Visual skills enable creating presentations, dashboards, or reports that communicate impact instantly. Storytelling makes abstract concepts memorable and engaging through narrative structure, emotional resonance, and concrete examples, transforming dry information into compelling stories that audiences remember and share. The clarity over cleverness principle establishes that effective communication prioritizes being understood over sounding impressive through avoiding jargon unless audience requires it, using concrete examples over abstract descriptions, employing simple direct language over complex prose, and organizing logically, making main points obvious. Many people, especially experts, try demonstrating sophistication through complex communication that actually obscures meaning and alienates audiences. Winners prioritize clarity, accepting that simple, clear communication creates more impact than impressively complex, but confusing messaging. The audience-centered approach tailors communication to specific audience needs, interests, and knowledge level, rather than using generic one-size-fits-all messaging. Effective audience adaptation includes researching audience background and priorities beforehand, adjusting technical depth to match audience expertise, emphasizing benefits and implications relevant to audience goals, using examples and analogies drawn from audience experience, and anticipating and addressing audience questions or concerns. Technical audience needs different communication than business audience, even when discussing same work, making audience adaptation essential. The structure and signposting makes complex communication easier to follow through clear organization and explicit navigation cues. Effective structure includes opening with clear thesis or main message, organizing into logical sections with clear transitions, using headings, bullet points, or other formatting, highlighting organization, providing regular summaries, reinforcing key points, and concluding with clear takeaways or call to action. Signposting through phrases like first, second, or in conclusion helps audiences track progress through complex material. The concrete examples and analogies make abstract concepts tangible through specific illustrations that audiences can visualize and relate to their experience. Abstract explanation, like our algorithm optimizes efficiency, means little to non-technical audiences, while concrete example, like it arranges delivery routes, like planning errands to minimize driving, makes concept immediately clear through familiar analogy. Winners master using examples and analogies, making complex ideas accessible. The visual thinking application recognizes that humans process visual information far faster than text, making visual communication extraordinarily powerful for conveying complex information quickly. Effective visuals include charts, graphs showing patterns in data, diagrams illustrating relationships or processes, infographics combining multiple information types, slides supporting rather than duplicating spoken presentation, or interfaces making complex tools accessible. Visual communication requires different skills than writing or speaking, making deliberate development necessary. The practice opportunities include writing blog posts, articles, or documentation, building writing skills, creating and delivering presentations, developing speaking confidence, designing slides, graphics, or visualizations, building visual communication, and explaining your work to diverse audiences, practicing audience adaptation. Communication, like other skills, improves through deliberate practice, requiring creating opportunities for development. The feedback integration improves communication through actively seeking assessment of clarity, persuasiveness, and impact from audiences. Ask whether communication was clear, what questions or confusion remained, what made most impact, and what could improve. Feedback reveals gaps between intended and actual communication, enabling adjustment. The implementation requires developing clear writing skills, explaining complex ideas simply for diverse audiences, building persuasive speaking capability through practice and feedback, creating visual communication competence, presenting information graphically, Mastering storytelling, making concepts memorable through narrative. Prioritizing clarity over cleverness, making communication accessible. Adapting communication to specific audience needs and knowledge. Structuring complex communication with clear organization and signposting. Using concrete examples and analogies, making abstractions tangible. Practicing communication across writing, speaking, and visual modes, seeking and integrating feedback, improving effectiveness. And treating strategic communication as multiplier, amplifying impact of all other capabilities, where poor communication undermined exceptional work, making you ignorable despite genuine value. Master communication, amplifying capabilities impact. Explain value compellingly. Communicate strategically, or let work go unnoticed. You understand now that communication multiplies all capabilities, that clarity beats cleverness, that audience adaptation is essential, that visual communication is powerful, and that Chapter 7 provides communication framework, making impact visible where poor communication obscured value. Chapter 8. Framework 8 builds skills in emerging high-growth domains. Chapter 8 builds skills in emerging high-growth domains where demand rapidly exceeds supply, creating extraordinary opportunities for early experts. The timing advantage shows that developing expertise in emerging domains before they mature creates dramatic scarcity advantage through being among few possessing capabilities markets increasingly need, that high-growth domains offer disproportionate opportunities compared to mature saturated fields, because demand growth outpaces expert supply, creating sellers' market for scarce talent. That early expertise in emerging fields makes you impossible to ignore through being go-to-expert in important growing domain where few qualified alternatives exist, that most people develop skills in established mature domains where intense competition and slow growth limit opportunities, missing the extraordinary advantages that emerging domain positioning creates. And understanding that strategic domain timing through deliberately entering high-growth emerging fields while they remain relatively uncrowded is a powerful framework for becoming impossible to ignore, because it creates scarcity advantage achievable through smart positioning rather than requiring decades to become world-class in mature competitive field. Develop skills in emerging high-growth domains. Position early in new fields. Time strategically or compete in saturated mature markets. The emerging domain identification spots field, showing characteristics suggesting extraordinary future opportunity before opportunity becomes obvious to everyone. Strong fundamental drivers indicate domain will continue growing rather than representing temporary fad through solving genuine important problems, addressing large markets, or enabling by technological infrastructure improvements. Rapid current growth shows increasing adoption, investment, or revenue, demonstrating market acceptance and momentum rather than hypothetical potential. Insufficient expert supply creates immediate scarcity where market growth outpaces expert development, creating short-term and medium-term opportunity until supply catches up. Major players entering validates domain importance through investments, acquisitions, or strategic initiatives by established companies, showing they recognize opportunity. Combination of these factors suggests emerging domain worth early investment before competition intensifies and opportunity diminishes. The domain examples showing this pattern include cloud computing in late 2000s, when Amazon AWS and others demonstrated viability, but few developers possess cloud skills, creating enormous opportunity for early cloud experts. Mobile app development in early 2010s, when smartphones created new platform, but limited developers understood mobile, creating premium for mobile expertise. Data science and machine learning in mid-2010s, when data availability and computational power enabled applications. But few possessed skills, creating extraordinary demand for data scientists. Blockchain and cryptocurrency in late 2010s, when applications beyond Bitcoin emerged, but few understood technology, creating opportunities for blockchain developers. And artificial intelligence applications in 2020s, when large language models and generative AI created capabilities, but limited people can deploy them, creating current scarcity. Each domain showed high growth, strong drivers, insufficient supply, and major player entry before becoming mainstream, creating windows of opportunity for early experts. The early positioning develops expertise while domain remains relatively new, creating first mover advantages, including being among first go-to experts when organizations see capabilities, building reputation as domain thought leader before field becomes crowded, establishing network connections with other early adopters, creating valuable relationships, and accumulating experience while most remain uncertain about domain, creating depth advantage. Early positioning requires entering before opportunity becomes obvious, accepting some uncertainty about whether domain will truly grow as expected. Waiting for certainty means entering after opportunity diminishes as competition floods emerging field. The learning investment in emerging domains differs from established fields because formal education programs do not yet exist requiring self-directed learning through reading research papers and documentation, experimenting with tools and platforms, building hands-on experience, following and engaging with early domain experts and communities, and building portfolio projects demonstrating applied capability. Emerging domain learning requires greater initiative and tolerance for ambiguity than established field where structured paths exist but creates advantage through lack of competition for learning resources and attention. The portfolio building in emerging domains creates visibility and credibility through public demonstrations of capability. Portfolio might include open source projects or tools for emerging domain, blog posts or tutorials explaining concepts or techniques, conference talks or workshops sharing knowledge, or case studies showing applications to real problems. Each portfolio piece establishes expertise and builds reputation as domain grows, attracting opportunities as demand increases. The timing judgment balance is entering early enough to build advantage before competition versus late enough that domain proves viable and resources exist for learning. Entering too early means investing in domains that fail to materialize, wasting effort. Entering too late means facing intense competition in established domain, missing early advantage. Optimal timing typically means entering when fundamental drivers are clear and early adoption is visible. But mainstream adoption has not yet occurred, creating a window of 12 to 36 months of opportunity before competition intensifies. The domain evolution anticipation recognizes that emerging domains mature over time, requiring adaptation as field evolves. Early domain phases reward generalists who understand breadth as specializations have not yet developed. Later phases reward specialists in specific applications as domain matures and fragments. Winners adapt positioning as domain evolves, maintaining relevance through changing landscape. The implementation requires systematically identifying emerging domains showing strong growth drivers, rapid current growth, insufficient expert supply, and major player validation. Positioning early in selected domains before opportunity becomes obvious and competition intensifies. Pursuing self-directed learning through documentation, experimentation, and community engagement. Building public portfolio demonstrating emerging domain expertise. Timing entry to balance early advantage against domain viability. Adapting positioning as domain matures, and treating strategic domain timing as creating scarcity advantage, making you impossible to ignore where entering mature saturated domains faced intense competition from countless qualified experts, making differentiation extraordinarily difficult. Develop skills in emerging high-growth domains. Position early in new fields. Time strategically or compete in saturated mature markets. You understand now that emerging domains create scarcity advantage, that fundamental drivers predict growth, that early positioning builds first-mover advantages, that self-directed learning is necessary, and that Chapter 8 provides timing framework making strategic positioning possible where mature domain entry faced commodity competition. Chapter 9. Framework 9 create proprietary frameworks and methodologies. Chapter 9 creates proprietary frameworks and methodologies establishing unique intellectual property that makes you impossible to ignore through original systematic approaches. The proprietary IP power shows that developing original frameworks positions you as authority and go-to expert rather than generic practitioner, because frameworks represent synthesized expertise organized into teachable systems that others can apply. That proprietary methodologies differentiate you from countless others offering similar services through unique branded approaches that create distinctive identity and competitive moat. That frameworks create teachable, scalable value, enabling you to impact far more people through training, licensing, or productization than individual service delivery alone allows. That most practitioners apply generic, conventional approaches, learn from others, never creating original intellectual property that would establish authority and ownership. And understanding that creating proprietary frameworks is powerful strategy for becoming impossible to ignore, because original methodology makes you source not just practitioner establishing thought. Leadership that commands premium positioning and enables scaling beyond personal time constraints. Create proprietary frameworks establishing authority. Develop unique methodologies. build intellectual property, or remain generic practitioner. The framework creation synthesizes your accumulated expertise and experience into systematic, repeatable approach, organized as step-by-step methodology model or structured process that others can understand and apply. Effective framework creation involves identifying patterns in your successful work, revealing underlying structure that can be extracted and systematized, organizing insights into logical sequence or framework structure, making approach learnable and repeatable, simplifying complexity by distilling experience into essential elements, removing situational details that prevent transfer, and testing framework through teaching or applying with others, validating that systematic approach produces results beyond your personal application. Framework should capture genuine expertise, not merely rebrand obvious conventional wisdom, creating real value through unique perspective or superior organization. The naming and branding gives proprietary framework distinctive, memorable identity, creating ownership and differentiation. Effective framework names are descriptive, suggesting what framework addresses or accomplishes, memorable through alliteration, acronyms, or vivid language, distinctive, avoiding generic terms anyone could use, and trademarkable if building significant business around methodology. Examples include branded frameworks like Blue Ocean Strategy, Jobs to be Done, Objectives and Key Results OKR, or Design Thinking, each creating strong brand identity around systematic approach. Brand your framework through consistent naming, visual identity, and positioning, making it recognizable property you own rather than generic method anyone claims. The documentation codifies framework through writing that explains methodology, completely enabling others to understand and apply approach. Documentation might include detailed written guide or book explaining framework comprehensively, visual models or diagrams illustrating framework structure and relationships, templates or worksheets enabling practical application, case studies showing framework applied to real situations demonstrating effectiveness, and training materials or courses teaching methodology systematically. Thorough documentation transforms framework from personal practice into intellectual property others can access, license, or learn. The teaching and speaking spreads framework awareness and establishes authority through sharing methodology publicly. Teaching opportunities include conference presentations introducing framework to relevant audiences, workshops, or training sessions teaching detailed application, online courses reaching broad audiences, consulting engagements applying framework with clients while building case studies, and writing articles or books explaining framework and demonstrating value. Each teaching opportunity builds awareness, establishes expertise, and creates advocates who apply and promote framework. The continuous refinement improves framework over time through incorporating feedback from applications, discovering edge cases or limitations, adding elements, addressing gaps in original framework, simplifying or clarifying based on teaching experiences, revealing confusions, and updating for changing contexts, maintaining relevance as domain evolves. Frameworks should evolve based on real-world use, rather than remaining static after initial creation. The licensing and productization creates revenue beyond personal service delivery through licensing framework to other practitioners who pay for right to use methodology, certifying practitioners in framework application, creating trained network, promoting approach, creating software tools or platforms, implementing framework, enabling scaled application, developing training programs or courses teaching methodology at scale, or writing books or creating content, monetizing framework intellectual property. Productization transforms framework from service enhancement into standalone value creation. The framework portfolio development recognizes that creating multiple proprietary frameworks over career builds increasingly valuable intellectual property portfolio. Early frameworks might be narrow, addressing specific problems. Later frameworks might synthesize broader expertise or connect multiple earlier frameworks into comprehensive systems. Each framework adds to portfolio, establishing broader thought leadership. The authenticity requirement ensures frameworks represent genuine expertise and original thinking, rather than repackaging others' work with new labels. Frameworks should emerge from your actual experience, expertise, and insights, not from copying existing approaches with superficial modifications. Authentic frameworks create real value and withstand scrutiny, while repackaged frameworks get exposed as derivative, undermining credibility. The implementation requires synthesizing expertise into systematic, repeatable frameworks, capturing underlying patterns and structure, naming and branding frameworks, creating distinctive, memorable identity, documenting methodology comprehensively through written guides, visual models, and templates, teaching framework publicly through speaking, writing workshops, and consulting, continuously refining based on application feedback and changing contexts, exploring licensing, productization, or certification, creating scalable value, building framework portfolio over career, establishing broad thought leadership, ensuring authenticity through basing frameworks on genuine expertise and original insights, and treating proprietary framework creation as establishing unique intellectual property, making you impossible to ignore as authority and source, rather than generic practitioner offering undifferentiated services. Create proprietary frameworks establishing authority. Develop unique methodologies. Build intellectual property or remain generic practitioner. You understand now that frameworks synthesize expertise systematically, that branding creates ownership and differentiation, that documentation enables transfer and licensing, that teaching builds awareness and authority, and that Chapter 9 provides IB framework making thought leadership possible where generic practice remained replaceable. Chapter 10. Framework 10. Integrate all elements into impossible to ignore architecture. Chapter 10 integrates all 9 frameworks into comprehensive impossible to ignore skill architecture, creating synergistic capability that makes you genuinely magnetic to opportunities. The integration principle shows that individual frameworks practiced in isolation provide meaningful but limited benefits, while comprehensive integration of all frameworks creates synergistic effect dramatically exceeding sum of individual parts, making you truly impossible to ignore. That impossible to ignore architecture combines strategic skill selection with deep expertise development, public demonstration, remarkable results, strategic combinations, excellent communication, emerging domain, positioning, and proprietary frameworks, creating complete, compelling package. That integration requires sustained multi-year commitment, building each element progressively while maintaining development across all areas, preventing single-dimension development that remains incomplete. That most people develop 1 or 2 elements without comprehensive approach, creating partial capability that remains easier to overlook than integrated architecture, and understanding that full integration into cohesive, impossible to ignore architecture is ultimate goal, creating magnetic pull where opportunities seek you, rather than requiring you to chase them, making integration essential. Final framework. Integrate all frameworks into impossible to ignore architecture. Combine comprehensively. Build complete system or remain partially visible. The architecture design maps how all frameworks combine and reinforce each other, creating coherent whole greater than parts. Strategic skill selection from Framework 1 identifies high-value scarce capabilities worth developing, providing foundation and direction for all subsequent development. Skill combination from Framework 2 creates rare valuable intersections, multiplying value through strategic complementary capabilities. Deep expertise from Framework 3 develops mastery in primary skills, making you genuinely excellent, not merely adequate. Public portfolio from Framework 4 demonstrates capabilities, making skills visible and credible to opportunity gatekeepers. Remarkable results from Framework 5 prove value through documented achievements, creating undeniable track record. Technical creative combination from Framework 6 bridges critical gap, creating rare multidimensional capability. Strategic communication from Framework 7 amplifies impact of all other elements, making value clear and compelling. Emerging domain positioning from Framework 8 creates scarcity advantage through timing and positioning. Proprietary frameworks from Framework 9 establish thought leadership and unique IP. Each element enhances others, creating reinforcing system. The progressive implementation sequence recognizes that building complete architecture requires years, making strategic sequencing essential. Foundation phase focuses on Frameworks 1 through 3, selecting high-value scarce skills to develop, beginning skill combination strategy, and starting deliberate practice journey toward expertise. This foundation typically requires 1 to 2 years, establishing solid base. Visibility phase adds Frameworks 4 and 5, building public portfolio, demonstrating capabilities, and creating remarkable results, proving value. This phase typically requires additional 1 to 2 years, creating visible track record. Differentiation phase incorporates Frameworks 6 through 8, developing technical creative combinations, mastering strategic communication, and positioning in emerging domains. This phase requires 1 to 2 years, adding distinctive elements. Authority phase implements Framework 9, creating proprietary frameworks, establishing thought leadership. This phase builds on previous foundation, leveraging accumulated expertise. Full integration phase brings all elements together into cohesive architecture. This complete journey typically requires 4 to 7 years of sustained development, creating genuinely impossible to ignore positioning. The element prioritization recognizes that while all frameworks matter, some create more immediate impact, making strategic emphasis important. For most people, frameworks 1 skill selection to skill combination and 3 deep expertise deserve initial priority, creating solid capability foundation. Frameworks for portfolio and 5 results enable next, adding visibility and proof. Framework 7 communication multiplies impact of existing elements, making it high leverage addition. Frameworks 6, 8, and 9 add further differentiation as capabilities mature. Sequence should match your context and opportunities. The consistency over perfection approach maintains progress across all elements through regular modest investment, rather than attempting perfect execution of one element before starting others. Better to make continuous progress on all frameworks than achieve perfection in one, while neglecting others, because integration requires development across all areas. Establish habits and systems, maintaining regular investment in skill development, portfolio building, results creation, communication practice, and framework development, even when progress feels incremental. The measurement and tracking monitors progress across all frameworks, preventing neglect of difficult or less urgent elements. Track deliberate practice hours toward expertise goals. Portfolio pieces published demonstrating capabilities. Documented results proving value. Communication opportunities pursued, and framework development progress. Measurement reveals where effort focuses and where elements get neglected, enabling rebalancing attention. The adaptation and evolution recognizes that impossible to ignore architecture must evolve as you grow and markets change. Skills that were high value scarce when selected may become common, requiring new skill development. Emerging domains mature, requiring positioning shifts. Frameworks need updating for changing contexts. Winners continuously adapt architecture, maintaining relevance and competitive advantage. The opportunity leverage uses impossible to ignore architecture to create compounding advantages. As visibility grows, opportunities increase, creating more chances for remarkable results, building further credibility, attracting more opportunities in virtuous cycle. Leverage architecture through being selective, accepting only opportunities matching strategic direction, using opportunities to build additional portfolio pieces and results, and reinvesting opportunity proceeds into continued architecture development. The implementation requires designing comprehensive architecture, integrating all 10 frameworks into cohesive whole, sequencing implementation progressively over multi-year timeline, building foundation, then visibility, then differentiation, then authority. Prioritizing elements, strategically emphasizing highest impact frameworks first while maintaining progress across all areas. Maintaining consistency through regular modest investment in all elements, preventing neglect, measuring and tracking. Progress across all frameworks, enabling course correction. Adapting architecture as you grow and markets evolve, maintaining relevance. Leveraging growing opportunities to reinforce and build architecture further. And treating impossible to ignore as comprehensive long-term project requiring sustained multi-year commitment, where shortcuts or partial implementation created incomplete results that remained easier to overlook than fully integrated architecture. Integrate all frameworks into impossible to ignore architecture. Combine comprehensively. Build complete system or remain partially visible. You have learned 10 frameworks for building skills that make you impossible to ignore. Framework 1, identifying high-value scarce skills worth developing. Framework 2, combining complementary skills, creating rare intersections. Framework 3, developing deep expertise through deliberate practice. Framework 4, building public portfolio, demonstrating capabilities. Framework 5, creating remarkable results, proving value. Framework 6, developing technical creative combinations. Framework 7, mastering strategic communication. Framework 8, positioning in emerging high-growth domains. Framework 9, creating proprietary frameworks and methodologies. Framework 10, integrating all elements into impossible to ignore architecture. What matters now is starting one framework today. 5 immediate priorities. Identify one high-value scarce skill to develop using value scarcity matrix. Select complementary skill combination, creating rare intersection you will build. Schedule first daily deliberate practice session toward expertise. Create one portfolio piece demonstrating existing capability publicly. Document one remarkable result you have already achieved with metrics. Start immediately. Develop strategically. Become impossible to ignore. Stop remaining invisible and start building impossible to ignore skills. Stop common shallow random capabilities and start rare valuable strategic expertise. Develop frameworks systematically. Integrate comprehensively. Demonstrate publicly. And become impossible to ignore through unwavering commitment, starting right now today.